magnets with the same pole tend to push each other away. When the repelling force and the gravitational force pulling on an object are at equilibrium, then the two forces cancel each other. If the repelling forces of each magnet are maintained by the torque of the top to maintain the repelling force, then the tops will not attract each other. When the magnetic force is balanced, the axis of the magnetic force and the axis of the gravitational force coincide.
UFO WingWing is structured so that you can experiment with the principles mentioned earlier.
There is a big donut-shaped magnet inside the UFO WingWing base. The top is able to levitate because of the repelling force between this magnet and the magnet inside the top. These are balancing legs. The surface of one magnet does not have a consistent magnetic force from one end to the other. Therefore, using the three different legs, height should be adjusted to match the axis of the magnetic force with the axis of gravity. The weights are to relatively adjust the weight of the top according to the repelling force between the base and the top. Without the weights, the top is lighter compared to the magnetic force. That's why you must use the weights to adjust weight. Because all magnets don't have the same magnetic force, you must adjust the error arising due to this with the weights.
Put the lifter and the spinning plane on the base, and your setup is complete. Now, shall we find out how to make the top levitate? Now it's time to spin the top on the lifter, but this is not easy because of the strong magnetic force. But take the challenge. If you put the top on the lifter, you can feel the magnetic force with your finger. There is a point where the top stands upright when you balance it with your finger. That is the point where you must spin it. After spinning the top, gradually lift the lifter upward like this. When it reaches a certain height, the top will levitate. Voila! Why doesn't the top levitate? There's nothing wrong with the top. Oh, no, no, no. I'll explain why it doesn't levitate. One of the principles of UFO WingWing is that you must match the magnetic force of the base with the weight of the top.
The point where the top levitates, called the stable point, is where the gravitational force and the repelling force of the magnet are the same. In order to make the top levitate in the stable range, the weight of the top must be adjusted.
There are 128 different weights that you can make. You can adjust the weights with just that much precision. First, let's put all the weights on the top, shall we? Voila! Now, let's try to make the top levitate. The top doesn't levitate. Do you know why? Because the top is too heavy. There are too many weights on the top. The gravitational force is stronger than the repelling force. In other words, the top is in a region where gravity is in effect. Thus, the top won't levitate. Shall we lighten the weight? This time, the top flies away. When the top is too light, then the repelling force is greater. So the top bounces outward. I guess I better lose some more weight. Okay, have you adjusted the weight? Let's try levitation. First, spin the top. Then, lift up the lifter and the top... What happened? I adjusted the weight of the top. Aha! It's not because of the weight. There's one more thing that you have to do.
If the top is slanting toward one side, then the magnetic force of the body is not consistent. If the top slants to the right, then the repelling force of the right side of the magnet in the base is weak. That makes the left side relatively stronger, and the axis inclines, and does not match the axis of gravity, making the top bounce outward. When this happens, the height must be adjusted with the balancing legs. In the beginning, it is good to tighten the screws halfway. If you turn the screws of the slanted side to high, the repelling force becomes that much greater, and you can match the axis of the magnetic force with the axis of gravitational force, and the top will levitate.
Wow, look at that! The reason for that is simple. A different location could have changed the consistency of the surface the base was put on. It is also possible that an object nearby with metallic properties could have had an effect on the top. Another reason could be that the magnet is sensitive to temperature, and a slight change in temperature could have affected the top. So, if you're going to move the base, you must go through the two adjusting processes again. It levitates in the air for about 3 to 5 minutes. It would be impossible to levitate longer because of air resistance. It would be possible to make the top levitate infinitely if the top were placed in a vacuum, or if the energy taken away by air resistance was supplied with a battery. So, did you succeed? I'm sure you did, but it wasn't as easy as you thought, was it? Take the challenge, you can do it.